We are live. Once again, Kale, unfortunately, be joining us from his phone because his PC shipment did not arrive.
Nope. It was supposed to. Sorry, guys. Supposed to be here today. They let me down. They called me yesterday and said, "Hey, I know we're late on our stuff already, but one more day. What's one more day?"
You should have said it's $100. That's where it is. Time is money, no?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think this is the longest time I've gone. I take that back. I think during.
Were you about to say without a computer? Was that how you were going to conclude it?
I was going to say without gaming. Without gaming.
Okay.
Substantially, like on something I actually want to game. I mean, I like Mario.
I was going to say you're going to work and playing every day.
And I still thought I don't want to play it there. I'm just I don't really play anything at work other than Fortnite. So I haven't really played it. I played my Xbox One when I first got into the temporary living. I played a little bit of Titanfall, but yeah. Anyway, what's up, guys? It's episode 75, Frag Logic.
Yeah, that's 3/4 of the way there.
75. Wow.
3/4 of the way to 100.
Jeez.
Milestone.
And we still not missing any weeks.
We'll be pretty close to the end of the year when we hit our 100 mark, won't we?
Yeah, we will. I think 104 is officially the year mark, or the 2-year mark.
Okay.
Right?
So be somewhere around Christmas?
Yeah.
Not too bad.
So, lots of stuff, dude.
What's the first thing you're playing when you get your setup back?
I don't know. I ended up, I got games I didn't play for the Steam Summer Sale, which are Tomb Raider, and I bought one other game. I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, The Witcher 2. Probably be Witcher 2.
Okay. Yeah, you need to get through that quick.
Yeah, I do.
Witcher 3 on the way.
Before I packed up and leave, because we got weekend gaming stuff, I ended up playing Brave Frontier. I've been on that game, dude. It's all I can play, really, religiously.
Was that the card game, iOS game or Android game, whatever?
Say JRPG.
Yeah, that's right.
JRPG.
But it's built like a card game.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It's more like Pokemon, because you evolve and stuff like that. So yeah, I've been playing that. And I played Mario Kart right before we packed up out of temporary housing and came to the house. I gave Colin a tour of the place. I'll do an official tour for everybody else, like on YouTube and whatnot. Maybe when I actually have proper stuff, I'll do that.
That place is massive.
Yeah, it's a big house. It's a big place.
You probably quadrupled your square footage from the apartment here.
Yeah, probably.
Probably pretty close.
This is a pretty big house.
Yeah.
Let's see. I played that Mario Kart and played some Fortnite. Can't really count that.
No, we can't.
We did have we had a lot of coverage today. Did you see that? Blowing up the.
Yeah, I saw that. I watched the video on I think it was GameSpot.
Yeah. So that was cool. Yeah, it was definitely pretty interesting. What did I play? Anything else? I feel like I played another. Oh, I played a Smash Hit or something like that. I talked about it 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Okay.
But it's like this. You fly through the level, and you're hitting. It's like a pinball, and you're smashing glass. So that's it. That's all I did.
All right. I played Dota.
You watched Dota? You played Dota?
Watched Dota, played Dota. We had some wild matches over the weekend. So Thursday or Friday night, I was playing with me, Sean, James, who's Cloud, if anyone knows who he is, and then Devin, Sean's brother. We played, I think, a game or so with Mitch as well. And we got whooped on Friday or Thursday night. We lost 4 games in a row, and none of them were even close, really.
Wow.
Just getting whooped in all sorts of different ways. It wasn't even like we were getting whooped the same way every time. we were just consistently getting whooped all over the place. Oh, and Spence Cronus was the last one. So like we were doing 4s and 5s, so like we really couldn't blame anyone, which is like how you cope with that usually in Dota. It's usually just blame the person on your team. Yeah, so we played those games, and like Saturday and Sunday we came back, and every win we had was just super hard fought. It was just like we had to step our game up, and we did. We had some games where we came back like from 20,000 gold down, which is enormous in Dota terms. But those are also like the most fun games when you come back from crazy odds, especially when the other team's talking shit to you. Then you come back and whoop them. So
Right.
we had some great Dota games over the weekends. And then also was playing some Age of Booty Tactics, which this is the plug because the studio I work at actually made it.
Age of Booty Tactics.
Age of Booty Tactics. So if you know like the old Xbox Live Arcade game, Age of Booty, this is a tactics version based in the same universe where you... Oh, I won my games. Okay. I was going to show you a turn, but I can't. So it's like a hexagonal board game, essentially. And you move ships around the board, and then you use play cards, which are curses, spells, and ships in order to add ships to the map, fighting for control. It's free on iOS, so you can give it a try now. That's pretty much it, just Dota and that. I keep meaning to go back and play some Titanfall since the updates, but it just hasn't stuck out to me enough with all the crazy stuff going on in Dota recently. So
They're having crazy sales right now, too. It was 33% off?
On TF?
Yep.
I haven't seen. They announced their next DLC today. But it was just like...
What is Frontier? Frontier is, I think, the name of it.
Yeah, but they didn't give any info. It was just 3 maps, and then they kind of like said the settings for the maps, and that was it. So it was kind of a bummer. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I am really just getting set for watching a ton of streams this weekend. So obviously today was the first round, the play-in tournament for the Dota qualifier. So I was watching that.
I watched like one of the Top American stream or whatever that was, and then I watched the noob stream.
Yeah. Did you watch like early in the day or was it later?
I watched early.
Okay.
Because people were talking to... I saw Scoots. Scoots was going on.
About the audio quality?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
They had some...
going nuts.
They had a lot of issues with the audio quality, which is pretty sad, all things considered. How much money they have in that event, and how many people they have involved. It sounded like they didn't even do mic checks before they started. Like, they were talking on stream for, I think, 10 or 15 minutes before they even realized they were talking, like open mics. And then, like, when the game started, there were just echoes, and the one caster you couldn't hear, and all sorts of stuff. They fixed it pretty quickly. It was probably like an hour or so before they fixed everything.
Yeah, it was... Yeah, it was pretty bad. I basically started right then, and the chat was like, give them a second! They just started!
Yeah, but it's kind of inexcusable for them not to do checks on that stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, it's entirely inexcusable, realistically. When you know the moment you start streaming, there's going to be 200,000 plus people, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, they had a very rough start. If you watch the noob stream early in the day, it sounded like later in the day when they switched casters, it actually was going way better. So I think it's one of those things where like over the next few days, they'll kind of figure out how to do that kind of stream, and then it'll kind of get better.
Yeah, because it definitely, like, I was trying to watch, and it was funny, we had there's a couple people discussing it. Like, I personally felt like they weren't really explaining too much. Like, they were joking around and doing, like, weird stuff, and I was like, this isn't very informative right now.
Yeah. Are you getting assaulted?
I am. My daughter's going nuts right now.
Yeah, it was from what I saw. I watched like maybe for 5 or 10 minutes, and it seemed like they were just kind of explaining items and heroes and just kind of like bouncing back and forth, but they weren't really tying it together or really talking about the game. And then they kind of branch off and make jokes and stuff. So like, it wasn't necessarily like they were casting a match; it was just like they were giving Dota facts while they chatted initially. But it sounded like later on in the day they were doing a really good job of kind of casting the match and explaining things as they went along. which I think is where it's probably going to be going over the next few days.
Right. He's going nuts right now.
So yeah, I'm actually really excited to see where the noob stream goes, because that's something which I think is sorely needed. Not just for Dota, but for
oh yeah, across the board, which is why
gaming in general. Like you can do the same thing for Counter-Strike, do the same thing for COD. Like there's more depth to explain in almost any game, which can't really be done to people who've watched thousands of hours of streams because they get bored. So hopefully they're really successful with it. Yeah, before we move on, I guess we can just go ahead and cover the rest of Dota 2. They did they said it was the play-in tournament today, which I think they called Phase 1.
yeah.
Where it was like the 4 teams that got runner-up in their qualifier, so they didn't quite qualify, and they did a last-person-standing single elimination tournament to see which team got brought into the final 16. The matches were all pretty one-sided. Like it was actually kind of boring to watch, realistically. Team Liquid came out on top, so we have another U.S. team in the finals, which will join Cloud9 and Evil Geniuses as the 2, I guess, quote-unquote U.S. teams. There's like Canadian players and other players on those teams, but they're mostly U.S. teams.
Right.
So tomorrow, the crazy group stage begins, where it's going to be, it's one group of 16 teams, so everyone's going to play everyone. And then the top 2 teams will make it into the final bracket, and then the rest of the team to Phase 3, which is like a little mini bracket in order to get 2 more teams for winner bracket, and then the rest for loser bracket. So it's a pretty complex bracket system that they're using, so it's really hard to explain. But essentially there's going to be like 180 or 120.
Obviously over the weekend is probably when I'm going to get the...
What was that? Your mic cut out. Still cut out.
Did I just lag?
Yeah, you're back.
I was saying over the weekend I'm probably going to be able to really delve into stuff. I'm going to try to watch stuff throughout the day. Yeah. But like tomorrow, my stuff is supposed to come in, so it's like I'll be probably watching here and there on mobile. Yep. But I don't know how much I'm going to be able to follow it up until I get all my stuff set up.
Yeah, they're also doing the one stream which they didn't really talk about in like their update or whatever. They're having another stream that's kind of like NFL Red Zone. Have you ever seen NFL Red Zone at all?
I don't think
how
so.
They structure things.
Nope.
So it has like all the matches going on at once, then they're pulling things live and like showing multiple streams at times. Just like, here's 2 things that are happening. Here's currently the big stuff that's happening, and they'll pull replays and everything. So like it's a compilation stream because of the fact they're running 4 matches at once. So they'll be doing that on like the main stream, so that if you're just watching passively or something, you can keep up with everything without having to watch 4 different matches at once.
And what's the cool. Is that like the highlight stream too?
Yes.
Or is that something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I think they used today as well. Like they would just suddenly cut to the solo championship for like 30 minutes or for 30 seconds and then cut back, and it was kind of jarring because they only had one match going on at a time today, so it didn't really make as much sense.
Right.
But when you have 4 matches going at once, that's going to be like just the general compilation stream, which is being hosted by Bruno of Good Studio.
I think the way that it was kind of explained to me made it seem like it was not 4 simultaneous streams, but basically 4 or multiple streams that were cut together to show you a splice of what like hot action.
Yeah, I'm not sure how live they'll be doing it. That's the one thing which I wasn't sure. When they do it on NFL Red Zone, they'll actually show all the matches live at times. Okay. So like if you have 3 games that are all ending, then they'll have all 3 games up at the same time, and then they'll be commentating. But obviously, it's less focused than a normal match summary would be.
Right.
So that should be pretty cool. Again, these are things which I don't think any tournament's ever done, realistically, of having like a live highlight show combining everything or having a noob stream. Like I believe those are both big firsts for esports, so that'll be interesting to see how those both pan out. And like I said, they're playing a ton of games. It's like 120 games over the next 3 or 4 days. That's before they even get to the bracket stage. So it's
that's
madness.
nuts.
Madness.
Yeah. The other thing I thought was cool is like they have the everything is going to be DVR'd, right? So you could like watch the whole thing uninhibited from start to finish. If like you miss something, like me, I'm gonna miss some stuff.
Yeah, it looked like the website player they have has that same functionality where you can kind of rewind and move around. Or if you watch through the in-game client, you can do it as well. Obviously, Twitch you wouldn't be able to, but if you watch through either of those, you can. It's being streamed simultaneously on YouTube, Twitch, their personal client on the website, and then also through the in-game client. In addition to all the different Chinese streams and that kind of stuff. So it's all over the place, split between a ton of streams.
Does Dota have a breakdown and categorization of streams like Counter-Strike does?
Like, oh, on Twitch?
On Twitch?
Yeah, I think there is one. It's like something TI. They were named pretty poorly today, so it was really hard to tell which was which.
Yeah. Okay.
But there's like 3 different English casts for each game today. So you could actually kind of take your pick of commentators. I think tomorrow there's going to be 2 English streams for each game. Maybe. I'm not sure.
I am just salty right now, like
how much stuff they have going on.
Yeah, it's just like all these things that people have been asking for from various developers over the course of the last I'm going to say 10 years or so, barring maybe Bungie. I don't really know anyone who has gone to this great length to make so many features that just help grow the space. You know what I mean? It's like
no, I can't think of anyone who compares at all.
Just crazy, and it's just like, oh my god, they get it. They get it.
Yep.
And just want more people. But it seems like there seems to be like this growing. And I randomly, I don't mind telling you guys this, but because I kind of don't really actively update the site anymore. But on our website, we got this guy that contacted us. I don't know, about 3 or 4 days ago, that was asking about Reflection as a site, and they were talking about esports. So I got an email from someone like, "Hey, can I get in touch with the person that's like the owner of operations for Reflections?"
Owner of operations.
Yeah, for esports and the growth of your teams and the growth of such and such. And I was just like, man, it's just like you hear all this stuff about esports now and the devs on dev teams and in journalism, and it's just like crazy to me. Like this just wasn't happening. Even a few years ago, this just wasn't happening. Like all people were talking about a few years ago was Riot.
Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of people don't even realize what happened before then. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people just think that like 2010, 2011 was kind of the start of esports.
Esports, right?
And it's like, no, it's been around for a little bit longer, but just the growth lately has been so obscene that it's just pretty crazy. I wouldn't have thought. If you told me that, like, yeah, a tournament in 2014 is going to be flying out 20-some commentators. Actually, I think it's probably higher because of the international streams. It's probably like 50 commentators for this one event. Then I would have been like, wow, that seems like a waste. Like, that doesn't really make any sense at all. And it's like, oh, yeah, well, they're doing it because they made $30 million in people supporting the tournament. It's like, those kind of numbers just wouldn't have made sense even like 4 or 5 years ago, much less 10 years ago when a lot of these leagues, or 10 or 15 years ago when some of these leagues were starting. So it's pretty crazy just think about it from that perspective. And on that same note, this weekend will be EVO, which is going to be its own brand of insanity, as we talked about last week, with the amount of players they have attending. The brackets are finalized. If you want to like actually look through the groups, you can dig around for it. It's on Twitch somewhere, or on Twitter rather. So brackets are finalized. That'll stream, I think, start Friday, I believe. Might be some stuff Thursday. So this weekend, Twitch is going to be blowing up. Between
I was already
Dota group stages and Evo, it's going to be like... I was throwing on the number 2 million concurrent viewers on Twitch. I think that's reasonable.
Concurrent?
By Sunday.
Yeah, that's a lot. I think you're right, though.
Last year, the Dota finals was at 500,000. I think Evo was around the same. I think Evo was around like 450, 500,000 when they did finals on Sunday.
Right.
So if they hit those numbers, obviously this year Dota community is bigger. The FGC community gets bigger every year. I don't think, and Twitch itself has gotten bigger and a ton in the past year. So I don't think it's unreasonable to see those numbers reach like 2 million over the weekend, even though it's not the Dota finals per se.
So this is kind of going off a little bit on banter. I had to take a drink of water, but I think, like, you know, you're talking about the FGC community, now the MOBA community. They're overlapping on the weekend. Can you imagine if, like, Dota, CS, CSGO, the FGC community, and Call of Duty all had an event the same week? Like, Twitch would be destroyed. There would be no such thing as Twitch.
Yeah. No, even just like the Dota finals coinciding with the League finals would be enough to cripple it.
Yeah.
But then like you throw in Evo finals on top of that and a COD event on top of that, like, damn.
But yeah, it makes me think like, man, WCG is just too early. Like, they were just too early.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that about the dozens of leagues that fell apart. If WCG started from scratch today, it'd be pretty crazy. Like World Cup crazy. Not that crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, would have been huge. Instead, they fell apart.
But aren't they still? They're still doing some stuff.
WCG? No.
They're
done.
not?
They're done.
Dang.
Done. Samsung
Sad.
pulled.
Sad, man.
They were held together by Samsung.
By Samsung.
Yeah, so like I said, crazy stream weekend. If you watch the show, you really should be watching tournaments this weekend. Just saying. Like, you should have Twitch up, pull up a stream for Dota, pull up a stream for Evo, side by side. I think there's also Red Bull land as well, so like there's gonna be some StarCraft on the side. If that's your thing, like, it's gonna be crazy. Be crazy. We'll be talking about it next week as well, for sure.
Yeah, I'm mostly going to be talking about Evo because that's probably what I'll be able to digest given my current setup situation.
Yeah, I'll probably watch the finals on Sunday for Evo. Like, the rest of the tournament's okay, but the hype levels just hit insanity on Sunday. So I'll probably catch that more so than the rest because Dota's going to be heating up on Saturday as the group starts to solidify a bit. Let's go ahead and switch gears to No Man's Sky coverage.
And one thing I want to say about the FGC, I want to see Chris. I want to see Chris perform. That's all I'm saying. I want to see Chris.
He's probably a favorite for Marvel.
Yeah,
right?
I want to see him perform.
And Smash is going to be Armada and Mango, most likely.
I feel like last year I was rooting for Wong because you remember that I think they faced off, right? And in Marvel, is that who played? Oh, I can't remember.
I can't remember how the Marvel bracket went.
But I'm rooting for Chris this year.
Chris just plays so scummy though.
I don't care. Gotta root for him. I feel like he went from like a favorite because of how much he plays to like an underdog.
Just the scummiest of characters.
So, yeah.
Scummiest.
So yeah, No Man's Sky. So I've been watching GameSpot basically blow, and you know, I'd say after E3, you know, this is a game that we've been talking about for a while since they showed off the game at the what the hell was that show?
It was the VGAs.
VGAs? Yeah, okay. So since it was at the VGAs, they showed a trailer for it, and that was like December or whatever. And since then, you know, I've been on and off. I've been really up on this game because I feel like it was like this silent sleeper that I just knew was going to blow up. And they weren't really talking about, like, Hello Games wasn't pushing it. Nobody was really talking about the game a whole lot. And then at E3, it's like they showed a very similar trailer. It was very similar. The only thing that was really different is that you saw a fucking dinosaur, right? That was like it. You saw a dinosaur.
They flew back down onto the surface, which was the different things.
Did they not do that in the first? No, they showed a hyperdrive thing at the end of that one.
But like when they flew into space and flew down on another planet, that was like, oh shit.
Oh yeah. So, I mean, it was similar in the context, but like I felt like for whatever reason, the trailer that they showed at E3 resonated with people a lot more than the trailer that was shown at BGA. And so, like, the coverage for Hello Games, like, they were on Verge, they've been GameSpot, like, all these people were trying to talk to these dudes. And I feel like one of the things I had loved previously was, like, they weren't talking a whole lot about the game, so it didn't really have a lot of expectations for people that might be interested. But now that media is getting all in the way, I feel like they're starting to slip up and say things in these interviews that are starting to set expectations that I think that could lead to disappointment for people, right? So there's this quote from, I'm not sure it was, but it's in the GameSpot article if you linked it. There's a quote from the guy they have interviewing, I wish I could remember his name now. I'm going to memorize these dudes' names. There's only 10 of them. It's only 10 dudes. So
there's only 2 dudes talking.
he's talking about the side. They're talking about multiplayer, right? So they said basically, Colin, that this is one big universe that everyone can play in. Everyone can play in. And you're going to get thrown on opposite sides of the universe in this multiplayer experience. All right. So while he's talking, he says that if 1 million players were thrown on the same planet, that they would have a difficult time discovering everything on that planet, and they would not be able to readily find each other with 1 million players on one planet in this game.
Which he had said about Earth-sized was...
correct.
Was the size he said.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my God, did you really just say that? All right, so there's this expectation that I think has been set by some of the things that they're beginning to say about the scope of this game and talking about the game that's definitely going to lead people to believe that, man, this is going to be some monstrous game. And and it's not that they're saying it in a negative way. Like, you know, if you look at his body language and his gestures, he looks like he doesn't want to be on camera. He's kind of talking down a little bit at times. Like, I feel like genuinely, like, they aren't trying to be boastful about the game. I am just concerned because I know how motherfuckers are. I know how you fuckers are, right? So I just feel like people are going to start destroying this game because of what's being said right now if it doesn't live up to expectations, because it was a low-key game. Like, I felt like this needed to be like a DayZ or a Rust or something that just came out of nowhere and was like, oh shit, game is awesome. But now you got motherfuckers coming in here and trying to get all the details that they can because this dude's had a hit trailer and people are like, oh, I want to know more about this game. And now, you know, we got these stories where they're saying things that sound ridiculous, right? And I think the next article is talking about how actually big the game is. Like, the biggest game ever created ever is something like the article.
Yeah, I mean, I'm captivated by the idea of it, but at the same time, it's like, man, planets that big, I have to have a reason to want to explore them. You know what I mean? Like, right. They're saying, I think when they initially talked about it, they said like each person would get dropped on their own planet initially. Was what they had said during E3 coverage. So like you have each person on an Earth-sized planet. That's a lot of real estate. If you have like 1 million players, just throwing a number out there, that's a ton of real estate. Obviously, it's all procedurally generated, so it's like, how much can those differ, and how much can the like wildlife and the terrain configurations differ between all of those planets to make me want to actually explore them? Especially when there's not like some kind of deep RPG experience built into it, where I'm going for items or something, you know? Like there's some resource generation and resource collection and that kind of stuff, but man, that's a lot of terrain to have to explore. To a point where the other thing they brought up was multiplayer, and they kept saying like, yeah, you could go to your friend and meet them and everything, but we're going to fling you all the way across the planet from each other, or all the way across the universe from each other, and you have to go find each other in order to make that happen. And it's like, yeah, but I'm probably going to do that anyways. You know what I mean? It's like, They, they said the objective of the game was to go to the center of the universe, and then you'll discover a thing, and that will kind of like push the game forward. So it's like, if you're doing that to bring people together, and you know people are going to try and find each other and get to their friends, then I feel like that multiplayer experience isn't really avoidable. Like, they're saying it's not the focus of the game, but to me, like, that's going to happen 100%. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that, to a point, is going to absolutely happen. And, like, that journey to your friend can be interesting. And actually, I think it's probably going to be a draw for a lot of people initially, and especially if it's, like, really difficult to make happen. You know, like, you can't just straight up go. You have to have a ton of stops along the way. But to me, like, that's what people are going to try to do naturally, is try and find their friends. Like, people play Minecraft together usually.
Right.
But then, like, they keep saying, like, the way they're wording it is, like, yeah, the multiplayer, you can meet each other, but it's not really, like, super fleshed out. There's not a lot of stuff to do together. We might do something in multiplayer in the future. We have a cool idea, but we're not focusing on it. But it seems like that's going to become the focus, whether they like it or not, because there's just too much stuff to explore everything correctly. You know what I mean? Like, why would I go to each planet and spend months exploring it to its fullest when I could instead try and find my friend?
But there was another quote, Colin, with the exploring thing. Now here's another quote from that same thing. He said, and I quote again. I'm going to say paraphrase. I'm paraphrasing what I remember, but he said again, talking about discoverability. If you were to explore by yourself one planet, you would never find everything that you needed to find on that planet, ever.
Yeah,
that's what he said.
And not needed to find, but you couldn't explore everything, I think was more what he was getting at.
So, I mean, if you just think about the scale of what he's saying, like, I've sat, like, here's an example. Like, I played Starbound, right? And what I did in Starbound, and I don't know if I would, I mean, I imagine I could have probably mined an entire planet on Starbound probably within, like, I don't know, maybe a week's worth of time. Like, an entire planet, like a big planet. Like, I could have drilled through everything, right? Mm-hmm. But what I would do is I would put a flag down in the ground, just in one spot, and I would traverse on foot, mind you, because I didn't have any mods, on foot from the start of the planet all the way around and come back around, and that would take like 20 minutes, right? And if I wanted to drill underneath, I might go a little distance, like I've drilled down to the center of the planet, come back up. Yeah. I've done all that stuff, but in this game, you're talking about like the entire, like, you can't explore shit. Like, you're gonna probably want to get, like you're saying, you're gonna want to get as many people as possible to basically explore as much as possible if that's what you want to do. Or I feel like my approach would be to find people and then team up and find other like players in the universe and just blow their shit up. That's what I would be doing. Like, I've already got in my mind how I want to play this game, and if I can play it like that, then I think it's going to be awesome. But, like, I just feel like, I mean, I don't know how hard, like you said, how hard is it going to be to find players? What is that communication going to be like? Am I at this coordinate? Oh, do you have a hyperdrive? Can you get to me? Do you have to refuel at another planet? Does it take, like, I mean, how long does it take to get to that point? Is it like...
But it doesn't matter how long. People are going to accept that challenge, and it's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, you might even re-roll characters, like, 40 times so you're a little bit closer to them before you go make your trek. But it's going to happen for sure. For sure.
And then we're going to create the...
And then you'll have this, like, weird multiplayer that isn't really multiplayer game going. Because it's not going to be able to support, like, tons of people on screen or anything, from what I can tell. So, I don't know. It seems like there has to be so much stuff for me to explore and, like, intrigue and stuff to justify that exploration that I just don't know if they'll be able to deliver on the exploration level. And it's the multiplayer stuff that intrigues me, and it sounds like that's not a focus of theirs at all.
But he did say that they have an idea for what multiplayer would be.
Yeah, while noting that it wasn't their focus at all.
Right. And there was another book that I don't necessarily... I mean, I like how confident he was in saying it, but he was asked, did they have like an idea of what the game is, right? Or what it would be, what it looks like, you know, in the future and now, and was he confident in it? Something like that. But he like looked at him and was like, yes, you know, I think our team is very confident, or we know exactly what this game is. Basically what he said, right?
Yeah.
So like, I don't know if they feel like like I have the same sentiment as you with regards to finding other players. I want to do a little bit of exploring to see, you know, what all I can do, at least in my mind. And then I'm going to try to find people that I know, right? So I'm wondering how they think people are going to play if they know what it is and what is, you know, what the game is capable of. What do they think people are going to do, right? So if it's a like, I think people are going to generate more towards playing with other people. So, you know, if they don't think that's going to be a thing, I don't see why they wouldn't make it easier. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or I guess they're not really making it that easy, but I don't know. Kind of confused on a couple different things from that, but I'm just kind of really concerned about, you know, the scope of the game that they're presenting now to players and setting expectations. Mind you, the name of this article is called this series of articles is called The Next Big Game.
Yeah.
So it's a little disappointing to see that right now, just because I know
they have really dramatic camera shots in the forest.
Yeah. Was that weird?
It was really weird. With like an artsy filter over it.
It was like
circling around the GameSpot writer or whatever that was doing the piece.
Yeah. It was trying to be like polygonish.
Yeah, I guess. It was just really weird level of artsy. Yeah, I mean, my biggest concern really is that I don't feel like the worlds are going to feel like they've been lived in. You know what I mean? Like, there's not going to be such thing as a lived-in world. It's just going to be like on a new planet every single time, like you're the first person that's ever been there. Because there's so much space that, like they said, you can't really occupy it all. And I'm sure if there's any kind of AI civilizations, they'll be pretty sparse and limited in what they can show. Because it's really much more difficult to sell that versus selling a topographical map, you know?
Right.
It's like finding stuff that other players did is more important to me than necessarily exploring the world. Because like without the possibility of finding like relics or things or areas where it's like, hey, someone was here, I wonder what the story was behind this kind of thing to kind of explore from that perspective, it's going to be pretty difficult to sell, I think. It's really ambitious in general.
I'm going to build like this like some type of call sign of when I've destroyed somebody.
You're going to burn something into the map terrain. And then basically, on a mound at the top of a gigantic mountain, you'll have a dead body laying there.
Yeah. It's going to be destruction. Destruction.
Yeah, I mean, it's that kind of stuff, which I think was what people enjoyed about Minecraft, kind of building something for other people to see. You know what I mean? Like, that was really what the core of it was you're building something for other people to see and experience. And the building itself can be fun, but at the end of the day, it's like, you want other people to be able to be like, holy shit, he did that, or he made that, that's really cool. Or be able to tell your friend, hey, come over to my place and check out this thing I built. But if you're light years away, literally, then that's kind of more difficult. So it'll be interesting to see how they make that interesting with that much real estate.
Gotta build that hyperdrive.
I got the impression they're going to make you go across the universe getting fuel at each stop. Like, you have to stop at a non-existent gas station and farm your gas back up.
Gotta have that.
It's be really difficult to get to other people.
Gotta have that Mass Effect scanner. Tell you what planets have that.
They do the Mars rover minigame. The Mars rover minigame where you have to go on the planet from the first one, or maybe that was the second one, whichever one it was. I prefer the scanner over that, I guess. But the scanner wasn't much better.
Gotta use that scanner, man.
You just scan this planet for minerals and go down there with my Mars rover and find all the unlockables and minerals. Oh, please no. All right.
So yeah, I just want to sign off with this saying for No Man's Sky. If you're interested in the game, I definitely want to know like how you guys want to play it. If you've been following it, again, this is probably my top 3 most anticipated games that I'm looking forward to playing, just because it's so close in design to what game I want to build myself. So, very interested to know what you guys think about it.
I'm still excited for it. They just have a lot of questions that they're going to have to solve and kind of answer. Battleborn.
Battleborn.
Which is
all right, Colin. Let
the
me
most
first get the impression. Come on. Come on.
It's the most forgettable name I've ever seen in any video game.
Battle Cry and Battle.
Yeah, we got Battle Cry and Battleborn, both doing similar things. Battle Cry is essentially a sword third-person shooter, or a third-person. You could say MOBA, from what we've seen. And Battleborn is a third-person or first-person shooter MOBA, essentially.
Battleborn.
And I said Battlecry was a bad name, mainly because they used it everywhere for their studio name and for the game, and then probably something in game is going to be called Battlecry, or a Battlecry. But Battleborn is probably worse.
I would say Battleborn is probably my top 5 worst video game names I've ever heard. Like, it's pretty bad. Battlecry might be up there too.
Like, could you imagine them sending email to their entire studio asking for name suggestions? And like that was the best one that was on the list.
We're Battleborn.
There's a song by Five Finger Death Punch. It's like a rock metal band called Battleborn, and it's the same like cringeworthy cheesiness to the name. So it's like that's what I think of every time. So I don't know, man. That's just an awful name. But the game itself, it seems like they won't use the word MOBA because that's apparently the trendy thing now is to make a MOBA but not admit to calling it a MOBA because then you fall in with the rest of the games. Because I'm sure when they do their marketing pitch to publishers, they don't want to be like, yeah, it's a MOBA like League or Dota. You know, it's like, well, yeah, right. There's like 10 on the market, you know? Right. And 4 of them have crashed and burned in the last year. So they have to put a different spin on it. So they're saying the word they're using was, hold on, let me get it. Make sure I get it in all its glory.
A FOBA?
First-person battle arena game.
I was close.
And they called it a hero shooter. To contrast with Borderlands, which is a shooter-looter, according to them. This is a hero shooter. And it's going to be co-op and competitive, and supposedly we'll have a single-player story as well.
So I'm not gonna really pick this game apart at all.
Well, you can't because it's not coming out until 2016.
Yeah,
March 31st. They said it'll be launched by March 31st, 2016, which is a long way away.
I've been actually, just the concept of this style of game. I've been anticipating personally a game like this or very similar to Monday Night Combat.
Yep, that's the game which comes to mind for me.
Right, and so a lot of people have these comparisons. Oh, League or Dota or Dawngate or insert MOBA that's recently come out in the last 2 years. Oh my God, I had to take that from it. But I've wanted to play a shooter with MOBA-esque elements in it for a little while now. But here's the thing: I think those kind of fall apart. Like, because at the end of the day, unless they figure out how to do it differently, it all comes down to like who has the better aim, which is not really, I think, what attracts people to MOBAs, right? So it's like MOBAs is more analytical thinking. There's a little bit of Twitch and some of the things I think with reaction to. Oh, I'm about to get lasted. Let me move really quick. Like, let me click here really quick. But I think it's more like a tactical, how am I going to outsmart this player rather than how am I going to outskill this player. That's just my perception of how those games play. So for me, I'm always wondering how, if you throw a first-person shooter in the mix, how that changes, how people perceive the genre and how well they can actually play it, right? So I can only imagine like some diehard League player that like is really in the League, but it's like not really in the shooters. But then they go, "Oh, MOBA, I'm gonna," and this happens a lot, right? So like I'm trying to think of. There's a couple games that came out right after League started to get really big, and people were like, I'm gonna go back to League. But I'm kind of interested to see like how many of those players would go, okay, I'll try it because it has MOBA in it, or the people are saying this is another MOBA, so I'll try it. and then they get slaughtered, and they go they go right back to League or Dota or whatever. But I'm really interested in it from that aspect, and then the whole art style that they're using. This seems the whole like stylized art seems to be something that is kind of picking up.
It's all over the place, though. That was my only 2 cents from the reveal trailers. Like they took like 4 or 5 different styles and just kind of mashed them together, which I guess is kind of required when you make a game that's probably going to be based around the large hero selection. But it does seem not focused,
Yeah,
was my
perhaps.
2 cents going in. But I've been personally harping for a shooter that leverages the ability diversity in MOBAs, and it'd be pretty cool if that's kind of the approach they take, is we're making a shooter with that element versus trying to make a MOBA game that is a shooter, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, there's two very different things, and there's things which shooters do well because of the first-person perspective, which a MOBA wouldn't necessarily be as suited to. Same thing with having like AI robots on map. Like that doesn't really work in a shooter as much because it's not fun to shoot them. Is what I personally experienced. And like Monday Night Combat, they were more of a distraction than anything, And you usually had the ability that auto cleared them when they were nearby for most characters. So like that was all that ended up happening. But the actual shooter aspect stayed strong even with the abilities. So if they pull it off, it'll be really good. That time frame though, man, that's a long ass time to be away for that. And there's going to be games similar to it that will come out before then. I can bank on it.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a couple. I mean, there's already been a couple like really small indie games that have tried to do some similar things that just haven't taken off.
Even Battleborn is an example of one which will be pretty similar and out way earlier.
Are they going to have? I don't remember if there's going to be bots on the map though.
I don't know.
I don't remember seeing anything like that. But yeah, I guess Battlecry is one that comes to mind.
Similar art style, probably multiple heroes to select from, or characters, or tons of character customization or something. There was another Dirty Bomb is pretty similar. And since they're doing lots of classes.
Class-based thing, yeah. That seemed more like Counter-Strike because I played it when it was...
Yeah, I played the beta as well. Or Alpha,
whatever the name
was.
The game that it was.
Splash Damage Company. I can't remember what the other one was. Yeah.
That's weird. I can't remember that.
Yeah,
anyway,
I just think between now and then there's going to be a bunch of stuff like that.
Honestly, if it comes out at the right time, it could be another we've talked about this before in the past. Like Monday Combat was great. If it would have just came out just like 3 months earlier, right? Like when it was supposed to come out,
would have exploded even more than it did. That game was
so fun. It was so fun. I almost wish that Monday Night Combat would re-release on like. I don't want to say Steam, but like re-release with an updated version of it and like act like it's a brand new game because I think I might play it.
Like Super MNC?
No, not Super MNC.
I was looking on the forums. I can't remember why I was on these MNC forums the other day. These dudes were shit talking us, KO. They said that if we had played today, we would have gotten shit rolled or face rolled or something like that. That's what they said. They said that if ZYN played today, they would get stomped.
We're like unicorns in that game, though.
It was just like a comment out of nowhere. It was like, man, the game has changed so much. If ZYN played today, they get absolutely stomped. That's what he said. This was a post from it was like a few months ago. It was probably like January of this year. And apparently there's like a really small community still playing. And they have like all these house rules and stuff because the game wasn't balanced at all. They're like, yeah, if they play today, they get stomped.
The funny thing about that game was like
we cakewalked too.
We beat people so badly at that game, that I just have no idea like how anyone could be like we would get face rolled in the game. Like we beat people so bad.
No one was close.
Like how old is that game? That game came out in like 2008.
It was, I think it would have been like 2010.
Was it 2010?
Because we left to go play Halo.
Okay. Yeah.
We went to play Reach.
Think about this. They got beat so badly 4 years ago that people were still making posts about us 4 years from now. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
No one touched our money ball. That's funny, though. But yeah, like, MNC was the shit. MNC was the shit. If they capture that same MNC feel, with more characters and selection and stuff. Like the making builds for that game was what was fun. Remember, like working out what your sponsor endorsements were going to be, and then your skill build. And if they kind of carry that over and made it fast and fluid and fun like MNC was, it'd be a lot of fun. Super MNC was not that, though.
They kind of dropped the ball.
Super MNC was not fluid at all. So yeah, that's Battleborn. Again, we won't hear anything probably for quite a while.
Howard was, again,
kind of way too early to announce a game.
Trailer, yeah.
Way too early. It's like, here's a game that we won't show you anything for another year of, and all we have is a CGI trailer right now, which is just concept, and we'll release it in the next 2 years.
Did you find the music for that trailer to be off-putting?
It didn't fit at all.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was...
I've seen that same song like used in a like snowboard montage, and it was like 100 times better because it fit. But man, it was ear-clangingly bad for that one. Anyways, the other big news from today, these came like within an hour of each other, right before the World Cup and stuff started, was Cliffy B, which had let announce... Oh, wow. Where am I right now? There we go. Which had kind of teased his new studio last week. We had talked about it. Boss Key is the name of the studio. And they're working on Project Blue Streak, which is a code name.
Martin Lawrence.
What was that?
Martin Lawrence.
Martin Lawrence, Blue Streak, yep. So, of course, everyone's just quoting from that movie.
Right. Dave Austria, he said something like on Twitter, he was like, if Martin Lawrence isn't making a cameo in the game, I'm not getting it.
So they announced it'll be a free-to-play science fiction arena shooter partnered with Nexon as the publisher. They actually have a minority stake in the company, apparently. And the codename is Blue Streak, and that's pretty much all they said. Cliffy also made clear that he's not going to show any rendered gameplay ever, pretty much. And that when we see gameplay, it'll be gameplay.
Yeah, he also took a shot at, well, possibly. He said something like, and you guys thought I was going to make a MOBA.
Yeah.
This is literally like, he made that tweet like 10 minutes after
the Battleborn announcement?
After the Battleborn announcement.
He'd been joking before, though, that he would be making a MOBA, just because that's what every game is now.
Oh, okay.
PC shooter.
So yeah, I wasn't sure if it was coincidence or...
No, I believe he'd been joking about it before.
Okay.
And he used the hashtag #UnlockTheFun, which I believe is more referencing the free-to-play model and how a lot of companies gate stuff behind purchases. So I believe that's more what he was referring to with that. It could also be something else entirely. But then later on, he retweeted a article saying that Cliffy B was probably going to have certain that killing the negative vibes surrounding free-to-play is high on his agenda, and he had tweeted an article about it. So I think that that's also something which is going to be top in their minds as far as how to make free-to-play work well.
Right.
And hopefully they look towards the stuff Valve's been doing with Dota and Counter-Strike, although Counter-Strike still isn't technically free-to-play, but it's basically a free-to-play model at this point. So I imagine that that'll be the more focus that they'll have versus stuff like League of Legends, for example, is like the other big free-to-play model currently.
I'm wondering how close the game is going to be to Unreal.
Yeah. There's been a few comments which made it sound like he was just doing Unreal the way he wanted to.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think in the one article I read, it said something like, you know, he was... the quote is like, and I want to say he likes to say something like, it's going to be a shooter like or an experience like the ones you used to cut your teeth on or something like that, is what he was quoted saying.
Right. Which would be like the shooters that you first got your shooter experience with. Which
right. So
for many is Unreal and Quake and Enemy Territory and COD, early COD.
Tribes.
And Tribes, yep. Yeah. They also said, and he had mentioned that if he ever does a game again, he wants to do like really open development with tons of dev updates, and like a community manager will be one of his first hires. He said, like this was like 3 or 4 months ago, and then today he said you should probably follow @BlueStreak to watch us develop a video game in real time, transparent development era for the win. So that's gonna be another huge focus. Similar, oddly enough, to the Unreal project, which is basically doing just that, except with people actually making the game as well and contributing. So that seems like it's going to be, again, it's another big industry trend, especially with indie studios. And now, I don't know if they'd be considered an indie studio at this point, with the people behind it and Nexon behind it. Transparent development seems to be something which is catching on quite a bit, and they're going to be pushing for that.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering, like, if generally speaking, because of Cliff's, reputation within the industry, even though this is him, I mean, not by himself. I mean, he obviously has some people there. But if this is going to be considered an indie, like, studio, or are people going to perceive it as, no, you got money, this is a money studio?
Yeah, I don't know. Nexon's a huge publisher.
Yeah.
As far as free-to-play goes, they're probably the free-to-play company, outside of, obviously,
Tencent.
Tencent purchases big companies for the most part, but Riot's probably, or Nexon's probably like a company that's built their whole base around free-to-play games.
Right.
So yeah, I wouldn't consider them indie personally. I doubt that their paychecks for themselves are reflective of an indie company. You know what I mean?
Yeah, possibly.
I doubt the salaries that people are being hired to over there are indie salaries. Let me put it that way. I think you dropped out again.
No, I had to mute.
Okay. Yeah, so I doubt that. But it could be a smaller team. They said they'd be announcing some of the people they hired and brought on next week, I think they said. So
that'd be cool.
Kind of revealing some of that. I imagine there'll be some pretty big names.
I'm wondering how big the studio size is going to be as well. So, if it's like 10 people, I think even with the size...
Then you could kind of call it that, yeah.
Yeah, you can call it indie if it's like 10 people. So
maybe. They're all driving Ferraris to work. I don't know.
Come on.
Sorry, he's a Lambo guy. I need to get that correct. So yeah, I'm really interested to see what they have to show. Obviously, you and I are both big Arena people.
Yep.
I'm more of a Quake guy, more of an Unreal guy, but Arena is kind of at the heart. And I've been saying for years, Kale, how long ago was it when I first said this? That we're going to go full circle at some point. From Arena to super realistic, hyper realistic games, then back to Arena.
Back. You said that a while ago.
This was like 2008, 2009, I want to say.
Yeah.
Like, this has been my rant for ages, is that eventually people are going to get tired of realistic games, and they're going to want some sci-fi and some kind of, like, fantastic stuff. And then you're going to loop full circle back into, like, super detailed versions of Quake and Unreal. And that time is coming.
Okay, so just to go back, this is something that relates to what you're saying, but I have to go back to No Man's Sky. In the interview, he talked about the weapon that they were using.
I was so
happy. He said that they didn't want to use like a battle rifle or an assault rifle or something like that. Like, it's like a laser tool that you can mold into different stuff. Like, he said, hey, I'm tired of seeing these games that are set so far in the future, but you're sitting there using like stock shell bullets. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's not futuristic. So, I was very happy. I was clapping. I was like, that's my boy Colin right there. That's Colin right there.
Unfortunately, right after that, they cut to a space battle clip that's just a ship firing the default two-barrel machine gun kind of weapon,
Right.
And it's like, not quite. But it's there. It's close. It was like a beam-type weapon. He said you can modify it to do whatever you want to do.
Right.
But yeah, it was nice. I was like, yes. He gets it. And then it's like, shit, it's actually hard to make up new weapons.
It is, right?
that aren't assault rifles.
Think outside the box.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, really excited to see what they do. Hopefully we can see gameplay soon. It sounded like it's sooner than later as far as when they're going to show stuff, because they're doing the transparent development thing, so they want to show it real early. And, yeah.
Oh, he would be kind of far with it, right? Because he showed off concept art for some stuff like a year ago.
It was like September when they showed it. It was called Silver Streak is what that was for. which one would assume turned into Blue Streak.
Blue Streak. Okay.
So I'm sure that they've been kicking it around for almost a year now, at least. He's been on sabbatical or whatever for like a year and a half now, or almost 2 years. So obviously been kicking stuff around for quite a while and has lots of industry contacts to make stuff happen. Yeah. And I think it's actually it for topics. There wasn't a lot this week, actually. So if you want, we can kick it over to chat for Q&A.
Yeah, sure. I can't see the chat right now, so I'm sorry, guys, if you've been in there talking.
Yeah. No, I'll go ahead and throw stuff out. Q&A, yo.
I promise this will be my last week being a bum.
Seriously, you're awful.
I feel like a disgusting streamer right now, like just an awful human being. Like I don't deserve to stream right now. That's how I feel.
I also played some Mafia with CDN on his stream.
Really?
Yeah, there's a game called Town of Salem, which is like a browserized version of Mafia. It plays out really fast, but it's pretty fun hopping in there with his chat group of subscribers.
Gotcha.
Thoughts on the new Titanfall DLC? We mentioned a bit earlier. There's not really anything there. It's just map names, which was bound to come, I guess.
Yeah, what's the Frontier DLC? I'm obviously going to check it out because I really like their map design for the last 3, and I want to see if they can continue
Keep it up. Yep.
Making very interesting, compelling maps that fit the game.
Solid discussion on GAF. Do you think Halo was an arena shooter, or is it too slow? I've always had the opinion that Halo was like a modernized arena shooter as it grew up over the years. Like, the initial Halo, to me, was like a consoleized arena shooter, because they had to slow it up a bit to make it work with the sticks. And then, over time, as the other arena shooters kind of disappeared, it was all that was left, you know? So I've always considered it like a modernized arena shooter. And I'd still say even like Halo 4 is pretty arena shootery. There's weapons on map, which I think is a huge distinctive trait of an arena shooter, is having weapons and power-ups on map.
Power-ups, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
So yeah, I'd say it's an arena shooter. Obviously, it's not necessarily in like the classic sense, but it sounds like, if anything, it sounds like the new one may push more towards those routes.
My issue with Halo has always been its speed. Like, it feels really slow and floaty.
Yeah, especially if you go back and play Halo 2, like old Halo 2.
Right. Like, it's just, it doesn't feel like an arena shooter. When I think arena shooter, I think like you don't even know what happened on screen because you got killed so fast. And Halo, unless you get, snipped from across the map, like you pretty much know like when you're gonna die. You're just getting outshot, strafing back and forth a couple times.
The one thing it's never had is like the twitch aspect of arena shooting.
Right, and it's always only ever been present when someone is sniping, which is why I mentioned that.
Yeah,
and you get even the rockets. Even thinking about the rockets, like they're kind of slow and floaty as opposed to that quick, like direct hit that you would get with like a Quake or getting blown to smithereens by a charged triple rocket in UT. Like, it doesn't feel the same to me. Yeah. So like your reaction to what's happening on screen is a lot different. But the one key characteristic that it does maintain is exactly what Colin said, and that's the power-ups and weapons on map.
Yep. This is a good question. Fortnite being PC only at first and ode to PC gamers, or a way to test the waters?
Hey, we would let me give you the canned response. We would love to have Fortnite on as many things as possible. Right now, we're focused on PC. That's all I can say.
Did I miss thoughts on the different Destiny bundles? I actually haven't read up on the bundles. I saw the pictures, but I didn't read past it. I'm having a really hard time getting hyped for Destiny. Really hard time. I know the beta's coming up. Maybe that'll change my mind. I'm having just the hardest of time getting hyped for Destiny.
I'm kind of in that same boat. Like, I don't know.
Like, I'm still going to play it. Still going to buy it day one. But, damn. Just haven't seen anything that's got me super excited.
I just want some of the figurines. Like, I just want a big Destiny figurine.
You were going to have a whole collection of
I showed you the room.
Figures soon.
I showed you the room.
It just has so much stuff. Will H1Z1 actually take over the genre? Piggyback off of PlanetSide 2's success is a really good position for with the community.
No.
I still haven't seen anything with H1Z1, so I don't know.
I'm going to go ahead and say no.
I don't think that genre has much legs left, is my personal opinion. I don't think the DayZ zombie survival games genre has much legs left. I think it's been overdone.
My issue is, like, whenever someone tries to come in and take over a genre, no one thinks it through. Very rarely do you see a studio think it through about how they're going to take over a genre. Here's a perfect example. When League started to blow up, there was League and Heroes of Newerth, right? Han stayed with their pricing model of whatever, $30, whatever the fuck it was, and Riot went free to play. Riot blew up. Then there might have been a couple other MOBAs that were like, oh my god, what are they doing? And then quietly, very quietly, because I think they had the resources and they actually thought about it, Valve was like, we're going to do Dota 2, but they started really thinking about the genre, right? So how can we change it? How can we, keep the Dota feel? How can we build features that would extend this far beyond what anyone else is doing right now? And then they executed on it like a motherfucker, like some of the best execution I've ever seen, right? And so when you see like an H1Z1 or another shooter that comes in, or such and such person does this or whatever, typically the execution on things that they're trying to do differently isn't that far from what already exists, or isn't well planned out enough to see it through, like it's rushed or whatever. So you get a game that is very similar to what already exists versus a game that feels drastically different. I think the only game, when I think shooters, at least, and I'm going to get back to H1Z1 here in a second, I think the only game that really realistically has separated itself from all of the hyper-realistic military shooters within the last year, and its last couple years, it's been Battlefield and Call of Duty, feel like the only two distinct military games that you can play, right? So everything else is like a gradient in between. Either the shooting mechanics feel like Call of Duty, or the movement feels like one or the other, or they copy elements from each game. Nothing really feels too distinct from those, and even Counter-Strike, I think, has its own little feel to it. So you got like 3 players there, and then I think within each genre, they say something like 3 people can exist in any specific industry. So like a good thing, here's a good example, like tech. So there's like iPhone, you could say Microsoft, Android, and their stuff, and BlackBerry, or whatever the third is, would be the other mindshare that people have. In games, it's like Nintendo and Xbox and PlayStation, and then the fourth gets cut out, right? So that tends to be the case. So if we're looking at MOBAs or H1Z1, so there's Rust, right? There's DayZ, and then there's like these other games that are coming in and trying to be that third filler. I don't think H1Z1 distinguishes itself enough from DayZ to be any better or any different. Like, the only thing that it has going for it is that it is a PlayStation title, right? So that's like the one thing that makes sense for it to actually grow a little bit bigger, is that it has a platform where people can actually play it, that they can't get that experience from like a DayZ on PC on the PlayStation. So,
and perhaps most importantly, it's a niche genre already.
Right. And I think if DayZ went to any of the consoles, it would cannibalize the other games that attempt to mimic it.
Yeah, maybe. Are you going to try the Battlefield update tomorrow for Xbox One? Kappa. No.
No.
Y'all gonna watch some FGC streams this weekend? Yep, we talked earlier about how we're all hyped for EVO. Talk about it next week on the show, probably. Actually, definitely. Did you play? You haven't played Wolfenstein yet, right? Because you've been, well, one, you're terrified of the game because you got whooped by it, and also you haven't had your setup. I feel like the speed is the control. As gamers being in the pro scene, how do you feel about the prize pool distribution for TI? Did you see the breakdown?
I didn't see the breakdown yet.
Here, I'll read it off. So prize pool is 10.5 million. That is almost 5 million for first place. 1.4 million for second place. 1 million for third. 800,000 for fourth. 600,000 for fifth and sixth. 500,000 for seventh, eighth. That is fucking ridiculous. 100,000 a person for seventh, eighth.
Let me just say, if I won that, I would retire. I retire and come back later.
Come back as a coach or something.
Yeah.
On salary. But then the big drop happens. So 7th, 8th is 500 grand. 9th, 10th is 50 grand. So it's 1/10. And then 11th, 12th is 36. And 13, 14 is 21. 15, 16, and the 3 teams that lost today don't get anything. Aside for, obviously, I imagine they had all expenses paid for the trip over here. So how do you feel about that distribution? Being, after 8th place, there's a huge drop. But 13, 14th is still getting paid. 15, 16 isn't paid.
And what was first again? 5 million?
5 mil. So it's from 5 mil down to 1.4 for first to second.
Oh, so it's $1 million a player. Okay, so for some reason I always think 4v4, so I was like, why isn't 4 million? Why are they
It's percentage based, so it's percentage of the pool. It's like 40% or something like that.
I'm not terribly like upset about that. I feel like some more money could be, like, every position I feel like could get some money based on how much that was actually put into the pool.
Yeah. I was mostly just surprised 15, 16 don't get anything.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I have the opinion of the fact that I think 12 or 11 or 12 of the roster positions or the tournament positions were decided by invite, directly from Valve based on like tournament performances this year. And it's almost like you didn't actually qualify for the event. You know what I mean? Like some of those teams, they may have been good earlier on in the year, but they wouldn't have qualified if there was a qualifier like a week before this event. So like, there's kind of that opinion. And also, like, in order for them to get considered, they had to have won prize money elsewhere, pretty much. Oh, shit, call dad. Let's hit that again. So, yeah, like, I feel like they probably made money elsewhere. Let me know when you're back. Oh, there we go. Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I was saying, like, they probably want money elsewhere at other tournaments, so, like, it's not like they didn't make anything this year. But damn, if you don't win one game, then I don't know if you deserve money.
Yeah, that's that.
Like if you get last place or the place above it in a 16-team group, I just don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And yeah, it sucks. Like, yeah, first place gets 4.8. They could have shaved it down to 4 million and distribute $800,000 a bit better, and made it fine. But at the same time, it's like, that prize pool is ridiculous because the community wanted it to be ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, they built it up. So having, like, that big showcase first place is important, I think. Just so you can say, yeah, I was watching a tournament this weekend where everyone who won got $1 million. Like, that is insane. So yeah, I think 15th, 16th probably could have gotten something, but I'm not that torn up about them not getting anything.
Yeah, you know, it's super echoey out here.
Really, everyone there should have gotten a flat stipend, which they might have.
Yeah, it's hard to know what some of those players got in terms of travel. The one thing I've said this before on the show is, like, one thing that really bothers me, and Colin just mentioned it, is like, I hate that our society right now rewards places, like, they'll give you a ribbon or something like that when you came in dead last. Here's a ribbon for something. It's like, no, you don't get a fucking ribbon. Like, work harder, and then you can get your ribbon in your top, 3 or 5 spots. It's a little bit different because the prize pool is so high. So, I'm kind of wondering, and again, team size has changed this, but, like, what is poker distribution like for places? Like, how many people, actual numbers of people are getting paid in a poker tournament.
It's not all of them, that's for sure. It's usually like top
Right.
10%, I would say, for like super large tournaments.
Yeah.
And then like when you get to the bottom, you're making like double your entry fee, pretty much.
Right.
So the payout's
look
steeper,
at,
but a lot of those are like almost nothing, realistically.
And I hate using poker as the example because it's not poker, but and the way I mean it is like if there are 1,200 players, do 320 players get paid, and then how many players actually getting paid there? So what is it? 5 times? Was it 14 teams?
16 total.
So yeah,
they're paying out 14 places. Sorry, I was typing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. 14 places.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that obviously the difference there would be pretty drastic.
So 13, 14 will walk home with about $4,000 each, a little bit more than that, which is pretty low actually.
Yeah.
For that placing, like I don't mind 15, 16 getting nothing, but like the point where you start getting money, I wish was a bit higher.
So here's the thing, Colin. Listen, we won an MLG event.
we only got. Oh man.
Won an MLG event.
Was it 2,000 a player? I think that's
2,000 a player.
2,000 a player for winning.
You guys hear that?
And if you won at the end of the year, I think it was 5,000 a player, wasn't it? It was 20 grand.
This is 5 years ago. 5 years ago, we won an event. We won. Fucking won an event. We got $2,000 a player. That sounds awful to me now.
Yeah.
For how much time we played that game.
And we sure as hell didn't have our trip all expenses paid either.
No, we didn't.
Staying in nice hotel rooms. I'm not salty though. I'm not salty. Back in the day.
Back in the day.
Any advice for people interested in QA in the game industry? A teacher hooked me up with a game company searching for responsible of QA. I have some programming background and finishing my degree in 3D animation. I might start as QA and move into animation after experience. The one thing I say about QA in the industry is it really depends on where you end up getting set up at. Like, if you go to a publisher and you do QA there, you won't really get any transferable work skills, in my opinion. You'll learn how to do QA, but you won't necessarily be able to learn much about the animation process or the programming process or the design process. Where if you end up at a developer, then in your extra time you can be animating, you can be using some of those resources at the studio, like being able to talk to people and be like, hey, can you give me some feedback on this? Or, hey, how would I get into this kind of a position? Or what do I need to do to become an animator in the game industry, or a programmer in the game industry, or a designer in the game industry? And being able to access all those resources is super valuable. So really, they're like two completely different worlds. And I can see developer QA as a way of getting into the industry, as long as you are hardworking outside of your QA responsibilities, which are often numerous and many, many hours. But like, if you're willing to work on the side towards that eventual goal, then there's a lot of resources you can get into.
Yep. 100% agree. Colin pretty much nailed it. Size of studio definitely matters with your ability to move up and talk to people about what you actually want to do.
Yeah. Andy says don't. We're pretty thankless at times, that's for sure. Do Dota team sponsors pay the players? Some teams have salaries, some don't. I'd say probably most of the teams at TI have salaries. They're pretty low. Like, realistically, they're pretty low. You won't be making like 50, 60 grand a year for most of these teams. Be less.
Did you see the thing that Scoots posted?
Yeah, Scoots was saying back in 2009, I think he said, they were paying their players like, I think he said $2,000 a month, $1,500 a month.
Yeah, and he said they still had to work out in jobs. This is one of the things I think I put in that article that I actually wrote that same year, right? Like, if you're interested in getting into competitive gaming, these are the actual associated costs with gaming, right? Like, you can't just live off of it. Like, it's very rare. And that still holds true right now. Like, I'd say the top, like, maybe three teams across some of the biggest games can probably make a living off of just gaming. And then outside of that, like, here's a good example, like some dudes on Optic. Like, there's probably like 3 or 4 dudes on Optic that if they just picked up and were like, I'm done gaming right now, they could probably rely on like YouTube or Twitch or whatever to still be able to be like, okay, I'm going to stream today. Let's get that streaming money. Let's get that YouTube money, and they'd be all right. But a lot of people aren't that forward thinking with how they're doing their gaming, even now, which is really sad, about how many different ways they can actually make income in the gaming industry, or in the competitive gaming industry side of things. But
and part of it's just the sheer time required, like the time required to be at the top, and then also to do that side stuff. Like, you're looking at basically another full-time job,
right,
realistically, if you want to be able to make a living off of it. And that's not really even including all the practice hours. That's like half the practice hours.
Yeah.
You're talking like 50, 60 hours a week if you want to be a top player in a game and also be able to not work in the traditional sense.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I think that, like, a lot of pros stop playing once they get like in their mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
Because I'm of the belief that skill doesn't really diminish.
It's not reflexes or skill. It's just doesn't make sense anymore.
Right. You got like real life stuff. You're trying to play bills. You might have a family. Like, why would I sit down and play 8 hours or 10 hours? Especially, you know, thinking back for Gears, like, there's just no way I would do that stuff right now.
Especially you need to be at the very top the entire time to keep making that money. If you slip at all, then you aren't making enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, all it takes is one slip or one fall from grace, and you don't get a second opportunity. You know what I mean? Like, if a football player has an off year, he can come back the next year and kind of prove himself and get a contract. But in gaming, like, you're kind of forced into the workforce at that point, which was always the issue. So yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's reflexes or skill or anything. It's just there's not a reasonable system in place to keep it going. Yeah, and the context of Scoots' quote was that no companies in NA Counter-Strike are getting paid salaries currently. Which Counter-Strike is, for context, Counter-Strike is bigger currently than I'd say Gears ever was. And probably it's up there with StarCraft currently.
Yeah.
So, just some context to it. I think that's about it for Q&A. Hex had asked if Gears was intended in, or if wall balancing was intended in Gears initially. I believe they said that it was not, and then it just kind of developed, and then Gears 3 added canceling, which was kind of like them formally acknowledging it. Not that they didn't know about it in Gears 2, but... Tell Max, my boss, that he's a god. Okay. Hey Max, Hexana says you're a god. Miss Harvey, CS girl player, is good enough to play CS and win tournament and working at Ubisoft at the same time. Is that a female-only tournament? I imagine all the female teams all have jobs. We were working at eBash through the time we were playing Gears.
Yeah.
I was working like maybe 30 hours a week. You were 40, and Carrington was around 30 or 40.
Yeah.
Basically, just enough to be part-time and make enough to pay rent. It was all we had. No extra expenses, really. All our money went into flights. Are you going to watch Transformers? Eh? Yeah, me too.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy looks a lot better.
And Lucy.
Lucy. Oh, yeah, that's the one you talked about before.
Yeah.
Transformers game that kind of panned in the press. Saw that. No comment. All right. Looks like we're good to wrap it up.
All right.
Next
one
week.
last thing.
Sorry,
I got for you, Colin. Hold on. Where's LeBron James going?
Oh shit. So they offered Bosch a max contract with the Rockets. I don't know if you saw that. But Bosch got offered a max contract with the Rockets, and he'd be dumb to pass that up.
It's $96 million.
I think his is like 86 because of the way things are set up.
86 for 4 years.
So he'd take 86 over there for 4 years, and he'd be dumb to pass that up. Because if he does a Heat contract, he's so much less. And he still has to worry about LeBron changing his mind in the last second because he's not telling him 100% what he's doing. So I think he goes to Cleveland. I think it happens. Which is just insane to me as someone who was living in Cleveland when he made the decision. And as a LeBron fan, that's pretty crazy too. But
I actually think that it actually makes the most sense for him to go there.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense as long as the community will forgive him. I think they will.
It's LeBron. Why would they not?
There'll be some people who don't. There'll be some people who hold it.
He got a hug when he went back out on the court from that dude.
Yeah. And they took down the letter. The Comic Sans letter from Gilbert.
They
took it off the website, finally. So they finally acknowledged it. Like, shit, we need to take this down. This letter which said we were going to win the championship before them. So yeah, he's supposed to meet with Pat Riley on Wednesday. Tomorrow.
I've heard some really crazy scenarios.
Oh yeah, there's so many different scenarios. So many scenarios. It's gonna be sick. It's gonna be sick. NBA drama is like COD team change drama taken to like the 25th level. You know what I mean? Like it's just cranked all the way up, and then loops all the way back again on itself. It's ridiculous to me that these people can just shuffle teams like that because the money on the contracts doesn't really mean shit to them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, it doesn't matter how much LeBron makes next season on his salary because he's been making triple that in endorsements.
Yep.
So really, it's completely meaningless. They can go wherever they want. It's just
I feel
hilarious to me.
Here's I don't know if you guys how many people in the chat or on YouTube are LeBron fans. So Colin and I are from Ohio, so I think naturally both of us are LeBron fans. I actually played on the AAU team 1 grade lower than his. So Coach Drew was coaching their team when I was in 7th grade and he was in 8th grade. So like I've hung out with him, talked to him. This is like before I even realized who he would be or anything like that when he went to St. V and whatever.
Yeah.
So I am naturally like a LeBron fan because, you know, I personally know him. Yeah. Right. So that's like really different for me. And so like I don't care where he goes. I just want him to succeed. But like I follow a lot of like what he's looking at, the things that he's been talking about. And it seems to me like there's this quote he had when he was talking about baseball players and how much money they make. And he was like, you know, I would love to have that type of opportunity to make X, Y, you know, amount of money, you know, playing the sport I love when he was talking about this baseball game. And it was like one of the higher paid, it was like $260-something million contract, right, from baseball, right? So I feel like he wants to go to a place like he's already won championships, right? I feel like he wants to be $1 billion player, like a Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods. I feel like that's what he wants to do. Like he wants to make that much money. So I feel like he's going to go to a place where he can max out that contract and then continue to do his endorsement things so he could be $1 billion player.
Yeah. Could you imagine Cleveland with Manziel and LeBron?
And LeBron?
ESPN would just move offices. They just ESPN would have a Cleveland office. They get rid of the New York one.
Here's the other thing. Oh, did you see Money? Did you see Money rolling up the dollar bill?
Yeah. He was just trying to store it economically in his wallet. He has limited space for all those bills, so he was making sure it was really tight.
me and Raxzilla are speculating his destruction before December of this year. The Money Manziel destruction.
I saw someone on Twitter was like, hey, let's not jump to conclusions. We don't know that he was snorting cocaine. He could have been using it to hide his heroin needles. It's like, all right. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes. That'll probably happen this week too, right?
I think.
And we'll have shit to talk about next week. Next week, Evo, Dota, LeBron.
It's gonna be nuts.
Probably the first time those three things have ever been mentioned together in the same line.
Yep.
So next week, that's gonna be the title of the show. Frag Logic 76, Evo, Dota, LeBron. So with that, we're going to close it out. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in and watching with us. Next week, Kale, camera.
Yep.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Later. All right.